Hi everyone, here we are starting chapter 4, which is essentially about marketing research and the importance of marketing research. Marketing research helps to fulfill those two goals that we talked about with marketing, creating value and building customer relationships. Because you don't necessarily know what it is that your customers value until you ask them and do research on them. And you can't build relationships with them necessarily. I mean, I shouldn't say this. You can build relationships with them, but part of the relationship building is asking questions and doing research and responding to them and listening to them. So again, like every other chapter, there's a lot of terms that we're going to talk about. First one, the other thing too about marketing research is that the importance of marketing research is that it saves. The point of it is that it saves time and money, and that's why it's important to do. Okay, so big data. Big data, I probably all heard about big data. It's all this stuff that's collected about us all the time. Our spending habits, our buying preferences, when we buy things, how we buy things, what websites we visit. Just big data is a trend. Huge complex data sets generated by today's sophisticated information generation, collection, storage, and analysis technologies. So, for example, every time you go to the store and you use a frequent flyer card, or frequent customer card, or frequent shopper card, they're getting information on you. You might be saving a couple bucks on groceries, but what they're getting in terms of marketing data is really worth much more than that. Okay, customer insights, that's what we're trying to find out. Fresh understandings of customers and the marketplace derived from marketing information that's become the basis for creating customer value and relationships. So that idea of marketing insights, what I was just talking about on the first slide, that it's through the process of marketing research that marketers gain insights about customers. Okay, marketing research, you can read that: systematic design, collection, analysis, and reporting of data relevant to specific marketing situations facing an organization. It's a scientific process. If any of you have taken statistics, or even psychology to a certain extent, it's all research. It's all research based, and as I said, very scientific. Okay, marketing information system is essentially the people and the procedures that work towards assessing the needs and trying to decide what information is needed from people. It's the actual process. It's the discipline, if you will. It's marketing information system is the discipline or the area of marketing research. So here we go, more marketing information systems. Don't confuse it with another MIS, which is management information systems. For our purpose now, it's marketing information systems. So it does, the big part about it, when I talk about the bottom, is that it does raise ethical concerns in terms of sharing information, selling your information, being too invasive, knowing exactly what's going on. And that's a debate. Some people it bothers, some people it doesn't. Okay, so this is, I like to, as you know, I like to give visual representations of things. This is from the book. I'm going to increase it a little bit. But so you can see that we're going to move this over this way. Oh, we're not going to move that over this way. Anyway, we'll go down. We'll make it smaller. But the first part is that you assess the needs, and then you figure out what it is that we're looking for. These are all the different ways you can develop the information. In the middle, we're going to talk about them. You analyze it, and then that information goes up to people the decision makers. And then in the meantime, all these things are on the outside, the marketing environment that we're concerned about. We're going to talk about all these things. We already talked about the marketing environment. Some of those terms in chapter 3, they should strike a familiar chord. The target markets are the customer markets. The marketing channels are the marketing intermediaries. Competitors, we've talked about. Publics, we've talked about that, all the different publics that affect it. And then things in the macro environment with government and social cultural changes and that kind of stuff. Okay. So there are 3 different places that you can get information from. Internal databases, competitive marketing intelligence, and marketing research. And we're going to go through them one by one. So this is how you can obtain information. Internal databases are databases that exist already, and they're within the company, and they've been set up for some other purpose. So let's say you're trying to decide about spending habits or buying habits of people while they're on vacation. Maybe you have a business that is in a vacation area where there's some people who are permanent residents and some people who are on vacation, and you want to determine how is it that the people who are on vacation spend their money differently than the people who are there all the time, or the permanent residents. So you might have internal databases from past years of spending. You could match that up with how was it with crossing it with the economy in terms of how many people were there, what products were sold more of, which products didn't increase, that kind of thing. So internal databases, information that already exists, that's out there, that's not part of the matter at hand. Okay, competitive marketing intelligence. This idea is finding out as much information as you can about people in your orbit, if you will. So consumers, competitors, things in the marketing environment. You might do it through observing customers. You might do it through talking to your employees, benchmarking competitors' products. So benchmarking, there was a question about this in the seated class. Benchmarking, is essentially establishing an industry standard. So maybe the industry standard in fast food is to be able to, have people by the time they walk up to the counter and the time they get their food to be no more than 3 minutes. That would be the benchmark. It's like the average as to what you're trying to match. Or maybe it's number of sales. Your competitors, a benchmark would be to look at your competitors' sales and see how you compare to them. Okay, online research is just that, and then monitoring social media buzz. There are people who just spend all their time looking at what's being said about them about a firm on social media. Okay, so the first one again is internal databases. The second source of information is competitive marketing intelligence, and then finally marketing research. Marketing research is the most in-depth part of this process. So it's essentially systematically and strategically gathering information. You can use your own research departments. You can hire outside people to do it for you, or you can purchase data. There are places that just sell data. All right, so this is, as any scientific process, the first part is to define the problem and the research objectives, develop a plan, implement the plan, and then collect and analyze the data, and then interpret it. Again, this is the same. It's just spelled out differently. The idea is decide what you want to find out, make a plan for how you're going to find out, implement that plan, and then interpret the findings. Okay, so this is types of research. Exploratory, descriptive, and causal. So exploratory helps you get general information. It helps you better define the problem. Descriptive research better describes the market potential. So that's really an attitude toward consumers. That's really the most common type of research. It's the one that we're the most exposed to. That's the one we hear about with focus groups and questionnaires and that kind of thing. And then causal research is to see if there's a cause and effect relationship. So does weather change people's movie-going habits? Does a dip in the economy change the amount of money people spend on cosmetics? That kind of thing. Okay, so first we talked about the research plan, which is very important. All this stuff is maybe a little bit more detailed than we need, but it's okay to just sort of understand generally. Specific, what are the approaches are going to be? How are you going to contact people? What methods are you going to use? So that's the research plan. Okay, secondary data. Then there's types of data. Secondary data is information that already exists. Secondary data can come from someone's internal database, that internal database we just talked about. It can come from outside suppliers. You can buy it, commercial online databases, internet data searches, other kind of things. So essentially, secondary data is data that already exists and collected for another purpose. Primary data, on the other hand, is information collected for the specific purpose at hand. So things that are custom tailored to what you're looking at right now. Okay, and then there's primary data collection. There's different ways to do it: observation, survey, experiment. We're going to talk about them in a little bit more detail on the next slide. But that's just really just an a way to look at things. Now, this chart doesn't necessarily go across. Observation isn't only done through the mail. Observation can be done, usually in person or sometimes online. So that they're just simply lists. They're not. It just goes up and down. It doesn't go back and forth. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so research approaches. Observational, which is getting primary data by actually watching people. Ethnographic research is sending trained employees out to look at people. There's a story about McCann Erickson, which is an advertising agency that was interested in getting into the Central American market. And they had never done that before, so they actually sent their account executives down to Central America to live with people for a week, to live with families, to see what their daily life was like, what they ate, how they ate, where they ate, what the rhythm of the house was, who made the decisions, how things, just basically to watch them. So it's ethnographic research. And it doesn't have to be as extreme as going to another country, but looking at people in their natural environment. Okay, survey research is asking people questions. And then experimental research is giving people different treatments and then see how people respond. How do people respond when at a hotel, some people get breakfast and some people don't? Do the people who don't get the breakfast stay and eat there anyway? Or do they go and spend their money someplace else? Is it worth it to offer free breakfast or not? That might be a different treatment that you give people. Okay. So this is also you can look at this in more detail. It just talks about different types of contact methods. Okay. And then essentially, the whole process is that you collect the data, you process the data, and then you analyze it. That goes back to that chart that we talked about, the process of the research, implementing. This is one of the steps of the research plan, the implementation. Okay. So the ultimate goal, of course, is customer relationship management after you've determined what creates value for people. But customer relationship management, managing the information about well, what is it? What do you do with all this stuff once you get it? All you do with all this information. Understand what people's touch points are. What is it that they're interested in? That's kind of at the heart of it. And then there are some ethical concerns. There's privacy issues, and there is some increased government intervention in terms of do not call lists and all that kind of things. So the other big thing is you don't want to share people's information. You want to be able to provide some sort of customer value for people. One thing too, just that I did in class, that I can't do with you guys necessarily, is to come up, if you're selling clothes, say for Under Armour, come up with 3 questions you would ask them and 3 ways you would try to find out about them. Try to contact them. So what are some methods? What are the questions that you would ask, and then what are the methods that you would go through? So that's something that maybe you want to think about yourself. If you're trying to find out information about a potential customer, what would you ask them? And then how would you find them? How would you go about finding them? Okay, so that finishes up chapter 4. Soon I will be posting chapter 5, and hopefully these are helping you. Okay, thanks.